All right, this is going to be like a prequel to my normal beginning narration, which I've already made. But after all the comments and questions on the last video, which was titled, Don't Tell Chris That I Took Out His Overflow, I think most people know that was a joke. Chris already knew. We chat back and forth on occasion when things happen or just to chat, but obviously I let him know when that was inflowing, and he knew, he saw it well before any of you saw it. So it was a joke. He knew I was making that video. He thought it was funny as well. So it was funny. So you don't have to tell me, oh, you should let him know. He already knew. It was just a tongue-in-cheek and clickbait, and it actually worked pretty good. I got, at this point, over 10,000 views when I normally get 1.5 or 2,000 views. So I mean, it worked. I thought it was funny. But anyway, I wanna go over, explain this creek, the creek difference, and also sand. Everybody says sand, sand. Yes, all we have here in South Carolina, this part of the state, is sand. There is no clay like what Chris works with up there. I mean, it's not within 100 miles of here, so that's just not available. This does have properties. This doesn't wash. What it does do, and as you saw in one of Chris's last videos where he had to go back and fix the beach and part of that where the sand was, but there was another part where the water got along the driveway, and once the water starts once it makes a washout, it continues to really go. So that's kind of what happens here. So the sand is not a bad thing as long as it is properly pitched and graded. You do not want any water to run over the side. It's okay if it runs down a little bit and give it one place to go out, but if you just let it run right over the side of this, it's going to wash out. So that's one of the things that I corrected from the last time. That was one of the reasons why. But what I want to talk about mainly is the overflow. So the reason for the overflow, and we'll go on this side so you could see, is I stupidly, and it was stupidly, because the water has come up before. I thought that the water was going to come up to within about 3 feet of the top, and I would need that overflow to keep it from continuously rising. Now, what a lot of people don't know is there is a lot of groundwater here, but there's a lot of inflow. I've got springs out there, so this water continuously, no matter what, even when the dam was broken open down there in the middle, the water would keep rising. So I was always outflowing to the creek, which was fine. The problem was when the creek decided that when it would rain, the creek would fill up and I'd get an inflow, and that made a mess because you got massive amount of water coming through that gap, and it opened it up, as you had seen in other videos. So the reason why we put the overflow in, because I thought that this could actually hold water, and it doesn't hold water. It's the groundwater. So basically what you're seeing here is this is the groundwater. It's actually come up quite a bit. It's been a wet winter, so the groundwater is higher, but you can see what used to be Nest Island you cannot see anymore. It's underwater. So the water's probably come up about 3 feet from what it was, and it's pretty much staying here right now because it's wet. So we'll see in the summer how much it drops, but it never really drops too low. It's constant, it stays. The groundwater, it's got, like I said, it's got springs. So the reason for the overflow was not so that if we got a lot of rain, because in that last video, or a couple before when you saw the storm damage, we got 12 inches in 8 hours. And that's on even in Hurricane Florence, we didn't get that much. So this is not going to fill up. We're not going to get a storm and this is going to fill up and it's going to overspill. And if it does, I'll talk about that, afterwards. But it doesn't take much rain for the creek. As you can see, it's not very wide. And, people have said, well, you should clear it out. But okay, I have cleared out a lot of this. But the problem is, this is how it is. This goes for miles. This goes all the way to the ocean. nobody else clears it. There's trees that fall down. I mean, so it does not take much, and I know on camera you can't tell, but that's probably about 16, I'd say it's about 16 to 20 feet down where that water is right now. Well, during that storm where the water came up, the water was, again, to get a shot. Of course, now the wind's picking up again. I'm going to blow my hat off my glasses. See, I made this purposely higher so the water's going over into that property. Up to this level. So it comes up to about where that sand and leaf comes together. So and it happens very quickly, and it doesn't even have to rain here. This water actually comes from North Carolina, so this creek comes all the way from there. So it doesn't take much for this water to rise. So that's what happened. The water came in the overflow, and I don't want to show it because that'll be a spoiler alert for the video, or for the next video of the backfilling and restructuring this, but I'll show this side of it. So this is where the overflow was over here, the discharge side of it. Well, the water came up, the water was all the way up here, so the water came in the pipe and went into the pond instead of it wasn't being used to take water out of the pond. And like I said, it didn't take that much. I mean, it was a lot of rain in a short period of time, but it does happen. So I didn't realize, we never shot grade on where this was as to would the creek come up high enough to come through the pipe. And the answer to that is obviously yes. So that's the reason I removed it. I don't need it. It's not going to do anything except bring water in. This is never going to get high enough. No matter what you've seen, and I'll put a little clip of this, or I'll link the video, whatever. I jammed a 4-foot piece of plywood down into block up the pipe, so can't have this happening, because all that damage over there was done because the water came in. It's always the water coming in that showed how this creek was. I may even do this one as a standalone before I do the other video, just so people will have an idea for it. Again, I don't want to show this part to my left because that will be in the video. But this area over here is the lowest spot. So this will be an emergency spillway, so to speak. So if the water ever did come up high enough, the water will come out, it will go into the woods. And this is the lowest spot. It's the lowest spot anywhere around, so this makes the most sense. So I'm not putting in a pipe because I don't anticipate, I mean, it's got to be a massive amount of flooding going on here, and I've been here for almost 10 years, and I just don't see it happening. And I don't want to tempt God with telling me that it can't happen, but it's in reality it's not likely to happen. So let me just walk over to the creek over here so you can see. So this is where the water would come to. It would come down and come into here, and it's no big deal because it'll just eventually find its way back to the creek, because there are ditches. I don't know if you can see it, but there's even a ditch right there that runs through, so I'm not worried about it. So this is the spot where it's been in multiple videos, and you've seen me cut this with the mini and all that, so you can see how far down that is. And you saw the water, well, if you go back and look at it, the water comes up and comes over into here, the banks here. So this is when I talk about the creek in the woods. This is the area I'm talking about. The dam is just over there, but this is completely full. There, it's starting to trickle in over here. Never a dull moment, but you know what? It gives me something to do. That's how high that water comes up. So there is no way to have an overflow pipe. And again, I was wrong with thinking that the water would keep coming up and I'd have a full up to the top and water would always be going out the overflow, which is it's not the case. So I was wrong. I was wrong with that. So this is, I mean, you can see this, I keep this clear. I've cleared this all out because I can get the 250 in here and keep this clear. But if we keep going farther down, you would see it actually spills. It blocks the road down about a mile from here when it gets really bad, because it just blocks up, and there's nothing we can do about it. They could solve all the flooding problems of this state, this side of the state, if they would keep all this stuff clear, but it's never going to happen. So that's that. So the long and short of it, the long and short of that is that the overflow is not necessary for this particular thing. When you see Chris build the ponds and he puts overflows in, it's because that is going to, those ponds he builds are going to continuously, even if they don't have an inflow, I mean inflow, not, I called this an inflow when the water came in the pipe, but what I mean by an inflow is they may not have springs, but they'll have runoff, fields, whatever runs into it, and it keeps it full. And yes, the water can go over the top, but they have a place, usually they have a tall dam in the back where the water can run down. I do not have that, obviously. Mine is a creek, which would already be full with water. So an overflow, in my case, especially since it's never going to get that high, it's a waste. So that was a waste. Waste of money, waste of time. I had fun doing it with Chris. I mean, you know, so I don't consider it a waste. And I guess to get to the other thing too, well, you know, somebody said it's the tail wagging the dog. Well, every dam, everything is going to need maintenance. And so it's always going to need maintenance as long as it doesn't wash out like what it did. And I said what I've done as I've gone all around here. And again, I don't want to turn the camera around, but I've gone all around, and there is water doesn't run over the sides anymore. Everything is pitched, so it doesn't do that. So if I have to go around, I have all these machines. What am I going to do with them? I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to dig and do stuff on their own property with the machines I have? I'm sure, you know, I'm sure a lot of you would love to do that. So I'm not really worried about, you know, I don't mind doing it. I don't want catastrophic failures, but I don't mind doing it. I mean, it's you know, some people like to cut their grass and do their lawns. I like to do this. I like to run the machines, and I find it to be relaxing and therapeutic. So I don't care if I have to keep fixing things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I hope that's a better explanation as to why. And again, I don't want to show this. You'll see it in the next video. I think I'm going to put this up as a standalone explanation on all this. I think it'd be a smart thing to do. But anyway, you know, again, if you have any other questions, let me know. But that's the long and short of it, is that the overflow for my particular case is not needed. And that's all I have to say about that. So as usual, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. The next one will be backfilling and restructuring the area, this area over here, pointing behind me where the overflow was. So if you want to watch that, you can watch it. If you don't, well, then you don't. So again, I appreciate you all watching. See ya. Oh, and if you're still there, I just thought of something else that I had joked over the years, actually, that when I finally got to the end, which I'm not done, because one of the things I still need to do is, I haven't seen her on here, but there was a viewer, Penny, who used to call that the dark side, what used to be Goose Island out there next to what I call Eagle Mountain now. All that is what they call gumbo, and it's not a very good material, but it holds water. If I had all that material, I could get this to come up to the top. It definitely would, because that does not, water does not go through that, not at all. But once I finish that side and finish building up the road up to Wynn Way there, I made a joke that I would, once I got to there, I was just going to go again, start from where I just finished and start throwing it all back in the water, go all the way back around and do it again, so that I would have, sorry for the wind, it's really windy today. I mean, the flag is flying. So it's kind of a joke that, you know, I was going to do that. Obviously I wouldn't do it, but this is kind of like that. So I don't have to dig it back in. It kind of, some of it will go back in on its own, and I can dig it back out and put it back in place. So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. So figured I'd mention that too.